From WRAL News and the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, this is your coronavirus news brief for Friday, May 14th. I'm Mark Boyle. A surprising announcement from President Biden and the CDC on Thursday. Masks are no longer advised indoors for people who are fully vaccinated. The former commissioner of the FDA spoke with David Crabtree soon after the announcement about what this means for the next steps in the pandemic's recovery.
Mark, thanks for being with us on a very optimistic day in the midst of this pandemic, yet it seems to have caught some people off guard in a good way. What did you think when you heard the news?
Well, David, great to be with you today. And I know the Centers for Disease Control has taken a little criticism in recent weeks for maybe not keeping up with some of the changes that have been happening. This is a huge milestone. If you look at the past year and a half, what people have had to go through with this pandemic, all of the sacrifices, all of the activities by healthcare professionals, by scientists developing the treatments and the vaccines, and especially everything that North Carolinians and people around the country have done to get us to this point. David, now we're at a point where in the state, there are fewer than 10 cases per 100,000 people. Nationally, we're at the lowest level of deaths since March of 2020. So it's time for moving forward. We also have great new evidence indicating that people who have been vaccinated not only are very unlikely to get symptoms, they're also very unlikely to transmit the virus to other people. So that's where this new guidance is coming from. And it's a recognition of all of the progress we've made to get cases down, to get vaccinations up. That's what's made it possible to get to this point.
And to get to this point for North Carolina, it's basically up to the governor now, but the state and DHHS has followed CDC guidelines before. Would you be surprised if the governor didn't fairly quickly say, we go along with what they recommend?
Yeah, Governor Cooper, Secretary Cohen have taken a lot of steps all along the way to get vaccinations available in the state. We've now got over half of adults in North Carolina who have gotten a shot. We're starting to vaccinate with wide availability of vaccines. Adolescents, I'm sure they're taking a close look at the guidance, but I would expect, David, as you said, that North Carolina is going to follow along very quickly.
Okay. Let's talk about schools for a moment, because school leaders from the state said today they wanted children to continue wearing masks in the classroom. That sort of contradicts what we heard from the CDC.
Well, the CDC also gave the states a lot of discretion to make sure that this new guidance played into the situations in particular contexts around the state. And there are a lot of school districts that are still keeping the mask mandates in place for now. They may want to wait a little while to just make sure that there are not any significant cases being transmitted. But the good news for North Carolina, as I said, is that the case rate has come way down, less than 10 per 100,000. So that means the risk to kids in school is much lower than it was even just a couple of months ago, when so many more cases were prevalent in the community before all this vaccination had occurred. Now we're also seeing teenagers getting access to the vaccines. So I can understand some of the caution, but I expect we're going to see those rules getting relaxed in the not too distant future as well.
Mark, one last question. How will people be expected to know if someone is vaccinated and can unmask? And does this lead to another debate over vaccine passports?
Well, I think you will see, David, some applications of vaccine passports coming, perhaps in international travel, cruises, things like that. The important thing to remember from all of this, though, is if you haven't been vaccinated, this is really, really strong evidence of just how important it is to do so. The people who are at risk, if you're in a setting with people without masks, are not the people who have been vaccinated. They are very well protected. They're not going to transmit at any significant degree. It's the people who haven't been vaccinated. They're the ones who are still at risk of significant symptoms and complications. If they get infected, they're the ones who can pass on the virus to others. So if you've been thinking about it but haven't made a decision yet, this is very important new evidence of just how important vaccination is.
Thank you for listening, and a little plug. You can listen to complete WRAL newscasts in podcast form. Subscribe to WRAL News Daily wherever you listen to podcasts. We post 5 newscasts each weekday and 2 on the weekends. You'll get all the news, weather, and sports you get on TV, but in audio form. Just search WRAL News Daily.